Hello, and welcome to the Mentalverse, Episode 2, Emotional Intelligence, with yours truly, Nadim from Goat Academy, and of course, we got Christina from Kumiho.
How are you? Muy buenas a todas y a todos. We are here again to talk about the different concepts about psychology. So I hope you like this new episode that we're going to talk specifically about emotional intelligence. So stay here.
Now, we did talk briefly last time about emotional intelligence when we didn't delve too deep into it, but this time, this episode is actually dedicated to emotional intelligence. So, pay attention, watch, and enjoy. Now, let's get to the beginning of it all. Of course, we did say it last time, but we're going to repeat it again just for info. Now, the history about emotional intelligence began in, before 1990, when people spoke about it in tiny bits and details. But in 1990, an article was written by the hand of Peter Salovey and John Mayer. Of course, despite that article grabbing some people's attention here and there, it didn't, pique enough curiosity to become a global sensation. However, when a book was written by the hand of Daniel Goleman in 1995, that sparked the start of the expansion of emotional intelligence. And from that on, everybody began going too deep into it, seeing how influential it is, the differences between IQ and EQ, which one's better, which one's not. Is emotional intelligence born within, or is it, taught, and so forth? Of course, as we progressed, we've learned bits and details that it's actually influential in esports. How about that? But before we delve into how influential it is in esports, we have to start with its definition. Now, emotional intelligence, or EQ, is the ability to perceive one's self and others, but at the same time, knowing how to influence and to control and connect with other people. Of course, it's not just about controlling one's own emotions and influencing other people's emotions, it's also about socialization, because the key element is not just to control your emotions, but also to control how you socialize with others, how they impact on you, how you impact with them. And it goes back and forth with, esports. Of course, when we look at esports, we realize that connection, communication is a key element. Because, of course, a team without communication is basically a death sentence. I mean, imagine playing a team game, not connecting with your team, it's an instant loss. And everybody knows it. But of course, there are 3 models to that aspect, but we'll talk about them later. However, for now, we got Christina to tell us the interesting aspects of the 4 elements.
Yes. As he said before, there are 3 models about emotional intelligence, but to understand this model, it is essential to know 4 categories that are inside of this concept. Okay, there are 4 elements. The first one is the self-awareness. And what is self-awareness? The self-awareness is the moment that we try to know our own emotions, also our own behavior, and also how we react. In this case, also in esports, in the area of esports, players and also coaches need to know how are their feelings or how are reacting, or also to know the feelings of the other person, no? Because they are going to be communicating the whole time. So it is necessary that they know their own emotions, no? As I said. Also, we have another concept that is the self-regulation, no? This is the ability to maintain our own emotions, not to control them. For instance, while they are in a competition or while they are playing a tournament, their emotions are going to be very high because maybe because they are having a bad match, or maybe because they are winning. No, so they have to know how to react. No, you know what I mean, right, Nadim?
Absolutely.
So
It's one of those key elements, you see, because everybody
Yeah.
knows esports is about communication. But if you can't control your own emotions, it becomes disastrous, especially when you're playing with a team and they're so focused and all of a sudden you do a mistake, you get pissed off, you start shouting. Your team would react on equal. It's like spreading the vibes. You have negative vibes, your team will receive it, in a philosophical kind of way. And it
Yeah.
will impact the gameplay and the game performance. And that's something no team would want to be stuck with.
Yeah, so self-regulation, I mean, is one of the most important things when we are trying to work our emotions, because we need to control ourselves, because there are people that they are looking to us, and they are paying attention about how we are reacting, no? And I think this is important because you are representing also an organization, no? So
Absolutely.
the self-regulation, I mean, is one of the most important points to
I
work.
mean, you're presenting yourself. Imagine, you're not just
Yeah,
presenting
yeah,
with the team, you're also presenting the audience, your fans, the
yeah,
public opinion. I mean, imagine you being a star player in a game, and all of a sudden, boom, something happens, you start shouting. Your own fans would like, what is he doing? This isn't the guy we're cheering for. I mean, the other guy is so calm and he's so collective. I mean, what is our star player doing? Nobody would want to be stuck in that situation. And that's actually where regulation kicks in. Emotional regulation is such an important aspect, not just to know your others, but know yourself. And if you're able to control and maintain your feelings, even a moment of joy, because when you're doing a great gameplay and you do something great and beat the entire team in a team fight. Don't just, react happy. Hey, we did something. You become so distracted and overconfident that there's a lot of games that people lost while they had such a massive advantage because they got, the feeling of happiness and joy and they got so cheerful for themselves. They lost control. Boom, dead. And that's where the idea of controlling, maintaining control. I mean, okay, wait till the game ends, then go nuts. Grab the chair, throw it at the audience. Just as long as you're still in the game and the game is not over, just maintain control of your feelings. Keep your focus in the game and the results will appear based on your skills and performance.
Exactly. Okay, and now the next concept is very related about this one, because when we are able to control ourselves, now we must to know the emotion of the other person. So now we have the concept about social awareness. And empathy is very close to this concept, no? As you know, when you are playing tournaments, or they are in competitions, the communication skill is one of the most important. We have talked about this in the last episode. So one of the problems that some players have is the social awareness, no? Maybe that they don't know how to communicate to other person. So I think it is important to work on this. So Nadine?
Problem with this is it feels like when we're talking about empathy, it feels like, the concept of good versus evil. A person with high empathy tends to be more compassionate towards his teammates. Like sometimes your teammates make mistakes. Okay, it happens. We're humans. But a person with high empathy tends to be more compassionate towards these mistakes and responds positively. However, a person with low empathy tends to react very negatively, like, my teammate did a mistake, you get pissed off at them. That won't do. That will actually create conflict in a team. After all, a team is about connecting and communicating. And if you're low empathy towards your teammates, you're just going to create a very dangerous loophole of negative feelings that are constantly going back and forth, and it will totally damage the team performance. Nobody wants someone who tilts very fast, who rages very fast, who gets angry, or the worst case scenario, who blames others. There are some players out there who have this issue that they don't acknowledge their mistakes, they just pin it on somebody else. It's so easy for them. And that's where emotional intelligence and social skills and social awareness are such crucial roles. Because when you're social aware about both the people you're dealing with and yourself, you know how to respond to situations. I mean, high social awareness and empathy tends to pose a very lucrative and very reasonable image to a player. I mean, imagine a good player versus a negative player. The public opinion will respond automatically to it. Nobody loves someone who's negative. I mean, it's good for fun and laughs. Nobody takes them serious though. But a person who's kind-hearted, generous, very cooperative and very compassionate towards their team automatically receives the affection of the fans and the entire social media. I mean, only natural. And also,
And they will, they will create also a good atmosphere, no, while they are in competition.
I mean,
That
everybody
is,
wants to play with them. I mean, let's face it.
yeah,
Nobody
of
wants to
course,
play with someone who tilts very fast. You
of
don't.
course,
You
of
play the
course.
game to make a career. If you're talking about the pro leagues, you play the game to make a career and at the same time to enjoy it, because after all, video games are supposed to be entertaining. Nobody plays a video game to get stressed. We, as some casual gamers out there, including myself,
Exactly.
when we play the game, we don't play the game to get pissed off. We play the game to relax, enjoy. And it could be said that if your teammates, whether you're talking about solo queue or team queue or in a pro team, nobody wants a teammate who lashes out, who causes a toxic environment. And this is when somebody does these behaviors, you could automatically assume that that person has low emotional intelligence, or there are certain factors that are lower than the average person. Now, that does
Exactly.
not mean that they are beyond training. Bear that in mind. I mean, training a person is not that difficult. You just have to understand the technique of approach and the methods of approach. But we already know the models and the techniques and the steps and what are the behavior reasons. We know this person lashes out because of that situation. Therefore, we know how to approach and deal with this person, and to improve their performance and attribute.
Yes.
But there are
And
some
also,
people. I mean,
there are cases that the player is very, very, very good in techniques, but as their personality is not good enough, they don't get a good position,
I mean, yeah, they don't put themselves in a good position because
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
already showed their image. Now, of course, that
yeah,
doesn't mean people should give up on them. No, that's where the coaches and life coaches tend to impact these players. But there are some players, there's a percentage of players are, beyond help. Some people are just naturally naturally ragers. They don't want to change. They don't want to improve. They embrace the dark side within. And, they accept the negativity within. So they're not willing to change. But there are some players out there, despite the natural behavior. I mean, we all rage, we all tilt. It's a normal factor. The only difference is it's the boiling point. Everyone has a boiling point where they just snap. I mean, I could give myself as an example. When I play in games like Dota or League of Legends, you play 1 game, 2 games, okay, you try to maintain a positive mindset. But when you have 5, 6 games where you have ragers, where you have toxic people, trollers, and when you're trying so hard to, rank up, it does demoralize you and get you in a very bad mood, no matter how calm you are
yeah,
as a person. But in a pro league, however, it's much more different because it's,
yes,
fixed. It's fixed and it requires an extensive amount of mental training and, repetition, repetition, and repetition. And that's how these things work. And it doesn't end there. It keeps going on and on and on because there's no limit. There's always room for improvement, both in set of skills and in emotional intelligence aspect.
and I think one of the things that they don't develop this kind of players is that they don't understand the other person, and also they don't develop the communication, because when they feel tilt, they don't want to talk with anyone. They just go away, and that's all. So I think if they want to change, they have to develop their communication skills. That is related also with the social skills in this case, because you have to talk with your team players, and also you have to talk with your coach in this case, also with the staff. So I think it is essential that these people try to understand what they have to do, but in most of the cases maybe it's impossible, no?
I mean,
So I think,
absolutely. I agree with you on that because this is actually 100% right, because this is the thing. Some players are ashamed of that attitude. Like, nobody wants to go around saying, I rage, I tilt. I mean, you don't hear players usually go around doing that. They tend to be ashamed when they rage, or some, like not everyone. There's, here and there. But some people are ashamed to ask for help, or they think like, I can do it myself. Like, they don't rely on others. But I mean, that's where the coaches do their thing, and that's where life coaches also impact. A life coach tends to go into the psychology aspect, where the coach tends to help them in both categories. Now, this is where it all counts. The player has to trust, has to be willing to, communicate. This isn't a lone wolf scenario. There's no I in team. This is just not you being yourself. You have to understand that this is a team. You have to open up to your team. Trust them as you trust your coach and life coach. And the more you trust them, the easier it is to solve all problems. I mean, sometimes the easiest solution to a problem is just talking about it. I mean, how simple is that? You don't have to do something miraculous. You just talk about it. You feel like a weight off your chest. And that's where someone, let's say, easily tilts or easily rage or is easily toxic, they have to open up with their team and their coaches, because of course a coach isn't a mind reader. A coach has to have to understand these players, and when a player opens up to their coaches, the coaches knows, okay, this is the problem, I can help you with this and that. Rest, you have to put the effort in order to solve that problem. I mean, it's really that simple. And that's the beauty of emotional intelligence. That's really how beautiful it is, because it connects deeper and deeper. And we show that in esports, psychology does play a very important and crucial role. And certain things like emotional intelligence plays such an important role that it makes such a grand difference. Imagine a player with low emotional intelligence with exceptional skills versus a player with high emotional intelligence and also high skills. There's such a huge variation, huge differences. One person who absolutely nobody wants to team up with because they're toxic, they're aggressive, they're hostile, they're always putting the blame on somebody else, versus someone who's calm, empathetic, responsive, communicative, you know, like the perfect example of a perfect player. I mean, who wouldn't want a teammate like that? Those are the characteristics of a victory. And now
I have said before, to understand the three models, it was necessary to talk about this concept. So now I'm going to move to these three models. Okay, the first one was developed by Salovi and Mayer. Okay, it's always related about the emotional intelligence. So this model houses 4 branches. All of them are related with the concept that we have been talking before. Okay, so the first one, we have the perception of emotions. What is the perception of emotions? It's the ability to know our own emotions and also to try to understand the body language about ourselves, and also about the body language of other person and also the emotions of other person. Okay, so for instance, in this case, we have the coaches or players. They must understand what they are feeling and also what are the feelings of their teammates. Okay, is it clear this, right?
absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, after all, it is about when you have to know the other teammates' feelings. I mean, imagine a teammate is feeling frustrated. You as a player, of course, you have to know your teammate. And when you know, you can see that from their, I mean, they say the eyes are the gateway to the soul. So when you look at somebody, you can tell if they're frustrated or annoyed. And you as a team player should, you know, encourage and help them and assist them. And the same could be said about a coach. The coach should know their team player based on their performance. I mean, example, a great player, a player you know excels, all of a sudden is playing bizarrely weak. You know there's something wrong, because this isn't the normal behavior or normal performance you're accustomed to from that player. So you automatically know there's something wrong. That's where you as a person, a coach or a player, have to intervene to help them. That's where the perception of the emotions kick in. Know what the other person's feeling.
The next one is to facilitate thinking through emotions. What does it mean? Well, this concept said that we have to know how to use our emotions in certain times. Okay, for instance, the player is playing a tournament and there is a critical moment. So that players need to know how to react, or how to use the emotion. I think that's something essential, because you know that people and audience is looking at you, so you must know how you have to react, and maybe in toxic moments, as we have been talking about before. Right, Nadim?
Of course, this is the beauty about it all. It's sometimes you have to know when to pinpoint certain emotions to exactly the certain situations. Like sometimes you have to literally shout just to put, like sometimes a critical moment happens. You have to shout, tell your teammates, let's go, do this, do that. Like it feels like a hyperactive moment. And that actually, it's like the critical moment to do this behavior. Sometimes you need to be calm. The tone of your voice, relaxed. Sometimes you have to be excited, happy, joyful. Sometimes you have to be calm, observant. You have to pinpoint what emotion you have to use at what moment you need. Because let's face it, an emotion in a wrong situation could be devastating. It could actually cripple the entire situation. Like when you're, okay, let's say you won a team fight, as we said before, you've won a team fight. You're cheerful, you're happy, oh, overconfident. When you have that feeling, you automatically become less active, less productive. You weaken because you believe, okay, that's it. We have 40 kills, the enemy team has 10 kills. There's no way they can win. And so many games have been proven to work in opposition when though people feel like they're overconfident. Like, okay, relaxed, I don't care, we won, we lost one team fight, we lose two team fights, we already won the game. But so many games have proven that it's not over till it's over. So don't, burst out joy, lose your focus and start, going happy, like add that feeling of joy for no reason. No, just calm, use the situation, use the exact moment, the exact emotion, and the results will kick in.
Okay, and the next one is the emotional understanding, and the other is emotional management. I'm going to talk about these two because are very related. The emotional understanding is also to understand our own emotions, and also how we have to know not only ours, also the other people know, and understand what we are doing or what we are feeling like, for example, happy, or what we are feeling sad, or what we are feeling angry. We have to understand ourselves, and if we are doing it well or not. In this case, if we are doing well, okay, we manage well our emotion, but what happens when these emotions are bad? We have to know how to manage these emotions, right? We have been talking about this before, and this happens when we are when players are in tournaments or in competition, or maybe the coaches are under pressure because they need to get results, so they need to control themselves and to know if their actions are good or bad, right? Is it clear?
Yes. Now, even though they look similar, now when a person reads perception of emotions and emotional understanding, they do look similar, but they're actually not. There are certain tweaks that makes them a bit different. To understand and to perceive is a bit different. Perception is to know. To understand is the more deeper concept. And that's where there's, despite it looks similar, it's actually different.
Okay. So now you are going to move to the next model. This model is called Mixed. It was created by Daniel Goleman. He is one of the father of the emotional intelligence. He defined this model like a set of skills and competencies that affect performance. Okay, this model has 5 branches. All of them are very related with the last model that we have been talking about. So it's going to be very easy to understand. Okay, so the first concept of his model is the self-awareness. We have talked about before that it is essential that we know our strengths and weaknesses, and also knows our emotion and how is going to be the impact on others. So it is very easy to understand.
Directly to the point. I mean, look, don't judge. These are the models. If they look so similar, it's because these guys wrote it that way. We're innocent. We're just reading the stuff.
Okay, the next one is the same, the self-regulation. It's like to the understanding one's negative emotions and trying to maintain a sense of control to convert them into a positive or neutralize them. Okay, it's like to regulate our emotion and our reaction, just to know if you are doing it well or we are doing bad. This is the same that we have been talking about in the emotional understanding, right?
It's basically like
to understand.
Exactly, it's like basically converting. If you're having a negative feeling, what's the technique to convert it towards positive? Like the methods, the techniques, meditation, sports, reading a book, taking a nap. What's the technique? Now, this is the beautiful aspect of it all.
One, the social scale, that the influential aspect to guide people, to help them, to have a common vision. I could call this communication.
Communication. Well, there you have it. Problem solved. No need to add fancy names. Just.
I think it's the most the most simple way not to brief this concept, no, because communication is the one that helps you to be social, no, to talk with the others, with your team players, to talk with the coach, with the staff. So the social skills is one of the most important while you are in a team, no.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine a player who doesn't talk. Ugh. I'm not talking about, you know, a mute. I'm talking about a player who's so shy that they're yeah, I mean, imagine you're playing with someone, with your teammate who just, you know, you have your earphones on and you're communicating with them and all you can hear is their breathing. It's terrifying. I mean, dude, talk to me. Communicate with me. We need to win, you know.
Yeah. Even in solo players, they have to talk with their coaches, so communication is essential.
I mean,
so
it is, yes. It's less of annoyance because, you know, it's less of an annoyance,
because the solo player, because the solo player is not playing with other players, no, but they have to have a communication with the coach and also with the staff, because, as I said, they are playing in a team. They are representing an organization, so communication is essential. You need to know how to feel your player, no?
Yeah. You're representing your team, after all.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is the empathy. What have we said about empathy? That it is important that the players know the feelings of the other players and also the coaches. So for me, it's one of the most important while you are working with a group. Know how they're feeling, what they need.
It feels like a debate between good versus evil, but a player who is understanding towards his teammates' feelings doesn't automatically create this judgment barrier. Like when you see your teammates pissed off, you don't automatically say, he's pissed off, I don't want to do it. No, you have to be more understanding to, you like ask questions such as, why is he pissed off? Or why is she pissed off? What is the reason they are angry? And try to help them overcome it. I mean, that's what a team does. They, you know, cross the ocean together. They're a unit. So if one person's angry, you have to know why and try to help them. I mean, that's the idea of the concept of a good teammate. Someone who's understanding, compassionate. Someone who doesn't just automatically create an image of you because you had a moment. Like, everybody gets pissed off. Everybody gets angry. Nobody's a saint. Some people just get pissed off. Some people get pissed off differently. So you have to be more understanding to their situation and try to help them break that, you know, circumstances situation. That's what a team does.
This was related with the emotional understanding, no? We have been talking about before in the other models. So.
Absolutely. It sounded a bit fancier when you say empathy. It sounded like, you know, the Dalai Lama moment. But, you know, they wanted to make it fancy. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay, and the last one is motivation. Of course, motivation needs to be present while they are in competition. Because if the players has a low motivation, probably the results wouldn't be positive.
I mean, look, nobody goes into a tournament, you know, is like, we're going to lose, let's go lose together. It's like, they try to be as positive as they can. Yes. But it depends how you influence them. Like, sometimes your team is demoralized and you say a single word that, you know, energize them back. You know, when you play one game, you lose. Then you go into, you know, a break just to have a chat with your team. You say, you know, those motivational speeches, you know, those quotes with the, you know, weird cat hanging from a tree or weird stuff. But you try to use these inspirational stuff to try to reach out to them. And that's the idea of, you know, motivation. Use specific terminologies and specific words to energize them, to boost their confidence. Like, sometimes you just have to say a single word. It's not just about being positive or negative here. No, sometimes saying a negative word can actually impact differently because depending on the person's trait and characteristics. But the idea of motivation is saying the exact word at the exact moment to change everything. And then some players just, you know, after the break, second game, they just win it like as if it was nothing. And then they win the third game and, you know, happy ending for all. Because that person or the captain or the coaches said...
The coach, yeah.
And the coach said the exact word in the exact manner that the team needed. And that makes quite the differences.
I think coaches in this concept must be very present. No?
I mean, they have to also understand psychology. Not just,
even even if they are losing the first game and they lose the second game, the motivation must be present by the coach, okay? Because when they lose, sometimes they don't talk to each other. They just say, okay, let's start tomorrow. No, don't do that. Try to your players, but don't argue with them. Just motivate them. No, just finish this day in a good way. You know what I mean?
Don't use the blame game. Like, don't say it's your fault because you did this.
Yeah.
It's your fault.
Yeah, don't do that. If you lose the match, don't worry. Motivate your players at the end of the day, because they will go to sleep happy.
Yeah, joyful. Okay.
Feeling better, feeling better.
This is gonna sound philosophically weird, but accepting defeat is a victory in itself.
Yeah, exactly. You can talk tomorrow with them, but say something today that they can feel a bit happy, that feel better.
I mean, so who knows? I mean, today's performance might become different tomorrow, depending on that one word.
Exactly. But sometimes they don't do it. They don't do that.
They're just too busy, getting pissed off, because this is something called the competitive nature in us. This is the human kick that hits us all, because we're competitive by nature. We want to win. Nobody trains hard to lose in a tournament. Everybody wants to win. It's only natural that sometimes you get pissed off, agitated, frustrated, and during the break you just feel tense. The coaches usually should be the one to understand those situations and do their whole motivation speeches and encouragement and all that, and then poof, those frustration moments just fly away.
Well, as I'm teacher, I always relate this with when a student fail an exam. Instead of saying you must study a lot, you must to take more time studying. No, I say, okay, don't worry. Next time, I hope that you're going to do better and you're going to have a high mark, so don't worry about it. And I just try to motivate the student, no? So with the players, I think it's the same, no?
You don't have to bash them in the head, just push them. That's all you need, to push them to the right direction. And that's all the player does need. I mean, after all, players are human beings too. They have feelings. It's only natural to be understanding to that situation. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call empathy.
Yeah. Okay, now we are going to move to the last model, that it's called trait model. It was established by Konstantin Vasily in 2001 and describes our perceptions of our emotional universe by perceiving, understanding, managing our emotion, as we have been talking about before.
It's the same thing.
It's always the same thing, okay? So this model is also used. We are not going to go in deep because it's the same the whole time.
I mean, this is the thing about emotional intelligence. It's brand new. It's been, 20, 25 years? Of course, these models are, new. I mean, this one's 2001. It's not like 200 years ago. It's just 10 to so years old. It's new. And no doubt in the future, there will be more models, more deep explanations and differences, and hopefully not the same thing, but each model explained it in its own terminologies, but they all return to the same core elements: the self, the others, and the social aspects, and of course the good versus evil aspect, which is, the empathy part. And that's where it all at. That's what emotional intelligence is all about: the self, others, feelings, and of course empathy. So now, with all that is said and explained in details, and all the details we've explained in the abilities and the models and whatnot, we have to understand that esports is split into two categories. One, which is the solo type games. Two, which is the group games. Now, bear in mind, emotional intelligence impacts differently on solo type games versus type group games. Now, solo type games like, fighting games or sometimes FIFA or sports games relies on the one versus one aspect. I mean, there's no team to communicate with, so the social aspect is very limited between one player and their coaches, or one player and the organization. So there is none of the, try to know your teammates' feelings and try to communicate. There's no communicate. It's just you, yourself, and the opponent. If anybody makes a mistake, it's on you. There's no one to blame. Nothing. But that doesn't exclude that emotional intelligence is not important. Emotional intelligence kicks a very critical role in solo games as well as multiplayer games in certain characteristics, such as knowing yourself and how to regulate. Tilting exists in solo type games and, multiplayer type games like, Dota and League of Legends and so forth. So imagine if you're playing Tekken in a tournament. You tilt, you grab your joystick, you get unnerved. There's no way you can calm down instantly, just, relax and you're gonna win the game. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be exceptionally difficult, and there's going to be so many mistakes you're going to do when you're enraged, angry, or pissed off. You're going to miss a lot of things, you're going to react differently. You're just gonna lose it. It doesn't matter if you're in a team or alone. If you tilt, if you get pissed off, if you get angry, you're going to lose it. It's only natural. But of course, it's a bit different. Emotional intelligence kicks a bit different in team games, I presume. Right, Christina?
Yes, because in team groups, as we have said before, communication is essential between players and also between the coach. Okay, players need to know themselves, but also need to know the emotion of the other players. So while they are in competitions and they have a bad or critic moment, they need to know their feelings of the players, no, not
Absolutely.
only all feelings. In this case, the coach has an important role because he or she doesn't need to know their own emotion, but also need to see the emotion of the players, no, and also in these critical moments, no. So they need to be there and they need to try to guide them, no, the whole time to have a good behavior while they are in competitions. So I think working in an individual mode or working in groups, it's very different. No, it's not the same.
Absolutely. It not only does it feel different, it looks 100% different.
Yeah.
Like I said, solo games, like, when you're playing one versus one, there's certain things that you don't have to worry about, like the communication aspect. You don't have to worry about the communication. You're not going to talk to anyone. You're not going to strategize with anyone but yourself. It's all on you. But in a team place, there's so much that can implement. It's no longer a one-man show. It's if your teammate makes a mistake, you're gonna have to, pick up the pace in certain areas. You're gonna have to, push them, help them, or guide them in the midst of the game. I mean, that's not exactly easy, and that's gonna change so much. It's gonna change the strategies. It's gonna change the performance. It's going to change so much, and it doesn't end here. That's the cool thing about it.
And also, when they have a problem, they have to solve the problem together. Because sometimes there is a problem and maybe the problem is one player and they leave the player with the problem instead to solve together, So that's why I think that to work in groups is different than to a solo player. Because this is a team. Everyone have to work together to go fluent,
And you can't you can't keep your emotions inside. That's the thing when it comes to team games. You can't do it. It's difficult because the scary thing about keeping everything inside is it becomes like an unexpected situation. Because let's say you're keeping all that anger inside, or the frustration, or that irritation inside, and when you're playing a game and all of a sudden something small, some unexpected small detail happens, you burst, boom, explode out of anger. That really is not something a team wants. They don't want to be in that situation. So that's sometimes where you need to understand that communicating with your team, sometimes just letting loose, like let them hear your problems, or your teammates talk to you about their problems. It's in itself medication. No pills, no medical stuff, nothing. Just talking. That can be such a solution in itself. Or talking to a coach, or a life coach, or a psychologist. Those things can make such an impact. Now, in some part of the world, talking to a psychologist, sadly, is still seen as a negative thing. You're talking to a psychologist, therefore you're insane. No, that's not it, people. Talking to a psychologist is not as bad as it, the how people perceive it. A psychologist is someone who's delved deeper into the psychology aspect, the mind. So they have, understanding far advanced than, the average Joe. So when it comes to that, Never be ashamed when you're talking to someone or a psychologist. There's nothing wrong. A player or a normal person or even a movie star or, a president, heck, even a president or a prime minister, they tend to talk to psychologists. There's nothing wrong. After all, in the end, we're all human and, it's all normal.
And also, we have said each player has a different personality, no?
Yeah.
So the coach needs to know who is the player, and the psychologist is going to help them. No? So I think the psychologist is essential that they stay in a team, because they are going to help the coach to understand also the players. No?
I mean, yeah, he's really, after all, he is, as you said, each person is different. Therefore, the solution to each person is by nature different. So a coach has to have, a certain in-depth understanding of psychologists. Now, it's not going to be the same as a psychologist, but the coach has to understand the certain tweaks and tips and tricks to know how to resolve certain differences between this player and this player, how to approach to solve this problem versus how to solve the problem for this player. It comes out differently and it brings out the best results. I mean, if a coach can, in a sense, mind read his own team and know how to approach and how to solve these issues, it's easy to create a harmony in a team, create a combination, a strong connection with a team. And it's those kind of teams that not only the audience loves, the social media platform, everybody loves them on social media because of how they communicate with the audience, how they communicate with their team, with their coaches. That's all. It all goes back in a loop circle. I mean, it all goes back to square one, which is the influence aspect. It affects them. It affects how, if they're good, if they know how to communicate, if they're positive, if they're always responsive, if their team is all good. It's like 100% perfection in a team. It's automatically going to impact every single category in their esports journey, whether it is how they communicate in the social media, or how the media respond to them, or how the audience love them, or how everybody reacts to these players. And it all connects. It all goes back and forth in the same loop.
For me, I could say that the psychologist is essential.
Absolutely. I mean, I could say it from my experience to a degree, because at some point I did coach my friends. We were playing a certain video game once, and I was, in a sense, responsible for them. Like, as a coach, you feel it's like you're responsible for your team, whether it is their mindset, their behavior, their tactics, and so forth. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes one of my friends just get pissed off, and I don't, go around, bashing them. It doesn't work. So I try to, respond, telling them, no, it's best to do this and that. And it's the main thing to tell them. It's like, it's normal to be frustrated, and it's not an abnormal human behavior. It's normal. Everybody gets frustrated. Nobody is above it. Everybody gets angry or tilted. It's all normal. That's the key, in my opinion. That's the key understanding to it. It's to tell them that it's normal. It's normal to feel these things. This isn't Star Wars, people. We're not talking about a Jedi who has to behave. Do not join the dark side because you're pissed off. It's normal to be angry. And that's that's, as a coach, that's what, you have to tell the players. And that, breaks the main barrier, which is people are ashamed of it. No, don't be ashamed of it. It's normal. But you shouldn't always enact with that feeling. It's not a good feeling to always, connect with it during situations. There are alternatives. Breathe, relax. Certain poses, like, sometimes you close your eyes, 5 seconds later you feel relaxed, and then you get back to it. Or sometimes controlling the pulse of your respiration. Breathe, in a very relaxed tempo, sometimes can relax you mentally and physically. And those are the techniques that help you on the spot. So in the end, my belief as, a temporary coach, say, that it's good to understand that these feelings are normal. And it's good to be positive, be responsive, be, as we said, empathetic. That's the key element towards your friends or your teammates. That's where it all at. It's about to understand, connect, and we'll go back in a certain loop that it's all normal.
Well, to finish, I just want to say that psychologists are essential in esports, because they're going to help coaches. Coaches are going to know themselves and how they have to react or how to manage the emotions. Also, they are going to guide the players, players are going to be able to know themselves and also how to react while they are under pressure or while they are in competition.
Well, thank you, Christina. And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up all there is to be said about emotional intelligence. Now, I hope this information helps you when it comes to understanding about the self and others, the motivation, and the influence it does impact on our success. Now, bear in mind, emotional intelligence doesn't just influence our performance in esports. No, it also influence our day-to-day life. And hopefully, it'll help you to, find techniques to improve your mood, to improve your performance, and to become a better person. I'm Nadim from Goat Academy, and of course, we got the lovely Christina from Kumiho. Wishing you the happiest of days.